right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to American LFC, the video podcast where two American brothers talk everything Liverpool Football Club. We have an extremely exciting episode to talk about today because we have just returned from our pilgrimage to Liverpool, to Anfield, to watch the Reds play live in person and sing in the Kop where our seats were. Eli, how the heck are you?
I'm great. I had
Okay,
a ton
great.
of fun.
Did you? Yeah, I love it. It's written all over your face.
Sorry. It's been a long day. I'm jet lagged.
Yeah, we did have a great time. We did return late last night, so today is we're just figuring it out.
Yeah.
But we did go to see the Crystal Palace game. Unfortunately, the Reds were awful and did not get us the 3 points, but it didn't impact the trip too much, I'd say. I think there were a lot of really great things that we experienced, and a lot of cool stuff happened. But where should we begin, Eli? Where do you think we should start off?
Well, I do want to talk about the addition to my background here, as I have my half and half scarves from the two games we have been to at Anfield, Newcastle in 2018, and then Crystal Palace this past weekend. I guess we can talk about the fellowship that made the pilgrimage, right? So our dad went with us, and my 8-year-old son also went with us.
Yeah.
We flew out of Chicago and went directly to London, so that was a nonstop flight, so that was nice. And then we met up with you in London and took the train up to Liverpool. That was pretty cool. The National Rail on the way up was a little bit of a mess, but
yeah, it's interesting.
I think that's a Friday afternoon leaving London for you.
Yeah, I think so too. I took the train down back to London so I could take my flight out, and it was a totally different experience.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I had a reservation that was at a table. I was it was truly everybody I was sitting around was really lovely. I ended up sitting next to two people who were Evertonians.
Oh,
we talked for the first 20-25 minutes. Turns out one of the guys I was sitting right next to was going down to London because he's in the House of Lords. So I was like, what?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So wild. But yeah, so we ended up making it to Anfield. We stayed in Walton Breck Road, which is one of the streets that Anfield is located on.
Yeah, I think the listing said we were 400 yards from Anfield.
Yeah, so
which was a neat experience, but we kind of learned throughout our stay that it's really not the greatest neighborhood to maybe be in. Not because there's anything shady or, bad going on. It's just like a fairly economic depressed area.
Yeah, there's not like a ton. I mean, there are a couple restaurants, but it seems like everything is like Chinese/English takeout, which is a really interesting thing. Which is like, you can get Chinese takeaway, but you can also get fish and chips. Like that's
at the same place. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really interesting. It's a pretty economically deprived area around Anfield, which I think as Americans we'd probably be a little bit surprised by. You would think that the influx of fans every weekend would just create the opportunity for people to leverage that into commerce, but it doesn't seem like it stays in the neighborhood, so which is a shame, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the city center is the place to be, right?
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's like, so there's this one strip like right outside of the ground, right across the street where we were able to get those pies, and there's like 2 or 3, 4 restaurants right there, and like a bar, the park, and but that's kind of it. It feels like it just feels like there could be more opportunity for development just because of the idea of that they know that every 2 weeks there's at least going to be a game there.
Yeah.
Like you would think that you could make enough money as a restaurant or something like that on game days to keep afloat. But I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it was a pretty tough neighborhood. But I think it's really important to say that it's like, but everybody was so incredibly lovely. I don't think there was ever a moment that I didn't feel out of place, or like I didn't feel like anybody was giving us weird stares or anything like that. It was like everybody is really lovely, really talkative. Like Liverpudlians and Scousers are just they're always good for a laugh, you know.
Yeah.
So it feels like it was a very welcoming city.
Yes,
Which
I
thought
completely
was really
agree.
cool.
I love visiting there. Both times we've been, it's been great.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, with this time we did actually the previous time that we went, we had tickets in the main stand,
Mm-hmm.
and this time we had tickets in the Cop, which was incredible. How did you feel about your experience being in the Cop?
It was amazing, right? I mean, granted, we were in like row 65, so I think we were 3 rows from the very top.
Yeah,
But just being there and the atmosphere, I I wonder what it would be like on a European night, or if Liverpool was doing well. I feel like it would be a different energy if they hadn't conceded a goal in 12 minutes and 49 seconds and then played like crap for the preceding 80 or whatever.
yeah, totally.
But, there was a lot of the really neat songs in the atmosphere. There was, one guy behind us that was just voicing his discontent with the team, and it really reaffirmed for me as a coach and a fan that I think the best way to go is with, words of affirmation. Like, I get that you paid a bunch of money to stand here, but do you really think if they could hear you, they would respond positively to the kinds of things you're saying?
Right, right. But it's also that's part of it. You know what I mean? Is like getting out there and like I mean the thing is that it's the patrons blowing off steam too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not
that's
about
fair.
the players. It's about the working man going there and having something to
Cheer
sing about.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I get it. Also, in fairness, they played like absolute garbage, dude. Like they
Yeah,
were
I started
terrible.
watching the replay today and made it about 15 minutes in, was like, it's too soon. I can't relive this right now.
I think it was one of the worst games under Klopp's tenure.
We didn't get to see the Atalanta game, so
That's true. But
because we were traveling.
in the league,
But yeah, in the league, it was the first time they lost at home in the league in 18 months.
right.
I
I'd be
felt so
curious when
bad
was
for
the
Arthur.
last
He
time-
looked at me when the game was over and he goes, "I think we jinxed it."
Oh,
Poor kid.
yeah. And he might be right.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll just have to go a third time and see what the deal is. 'Cause
Yeah.
then we'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's like too much to touch on about the game, like the actual performance of the game.
Well, I saw a stat that in the last like 9 games or something, they've taken 167 shots and scored 9 goals. It's just
They're taking bad shots.
It's just bad. I mean, the one that really stands out for me on Sunday that was really bad is Curtis Jones had not quite a clear-cut breakaway because a defender was on him, and he put it wide from like 16 yards.
I don't even think it was that far.
It was, yeah, okay.
I think it was like around. I think it was closer than the PK, and he put it over and wide.
Yeah.
And we'll have to relook at the replay because again we were a ways away.
Yeah.
But and also Jota had the opportunity to shoot at basically an open goal, and then hit it right at a defender as well. So it was just like, man, just a couple like millimeters here and there. It's a totally different game. But
Well, and there was
that's the
one
game of
where I
football.
think it was Soboslai could have taken a shot on a fairly open goal, but decided to play Sala, who was like marked by 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
just, I saw some stuff on the socials today that basically Soboslai is starting to get a lot of stick because he just hasn't been at the levels that he was like right before Christmas, you know. And it's like, you know, who knows what's going on with the guy. I saw that he was talking in an interview where he feels incredibly lonely. That, you know, it's just who knows what's going on with the dude in his personal life, and you know how that
Yeah.
affects his, you know, work performance. But it's like, come
Yeah.
on, these are human beings. We've got to try and, you know, support each other and live by our motto of "You'll never walk alone."
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, the thing is, like, I also think it's difficult to use his past performances as a yardstick against him because he just came out of the blocks hot, right?
Yeah.
Like he just was incredible. We were like, this guy's the acquisition of a century. He was so good. We're like, this is Steven Gerrard 2.0. And I do think he's still that. I think the thing is, like, he just came off of a pretty long spell of injury. I think he's still getting up to the pace of things. I think the season's long, you know, like,
Yeah.
and also he played the second half, right? Like, he didn't start the game, did he?
Yeah, no. Curtis Jones started the game.
Right. So, right. Endo didn't have a great game. They took him
Yeah.
out at halftime. They brought on Soboslai for him, right? McAllister drops down to the 6, you know what I mean? Which also, like, sort of it's interesting because I love Curtis Jones, but I just don't feel like I feel like he didn't have a great game. He gave
No.
possession away a lot. He
Yeah.
was, like, slow on the ball, and, like, he just wasn't making all of the best decisions. Like it seemed like it was very clear that we're just out of ideas, man. We're
Yeah.
out of ideas because, like, I think they're just exhausted.
I think
the
that's
season's
it too. They're
caught
just
up with them.
tired. They're just, you know, you go from competing for 4 trophies in a single season to having just a wild loss in the FA Cup, and it feels like we've kind of hit a bumpy road here. And it's like, you know, with Arsenal losing to Villa on the weekend, it's like, okay, we're not out of this yet. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're definitely not out of it. Europa League is going to be tough, but we're
They'll
not
do
out
it.
of the league.
4-0.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. I it's interesting because I think if we're being realistic, after last year when we finished 5th place and we got rid of our entire midfield,
Yeah.
at the beginning of the season, right? Let's say, okay, like on the last day of the transfer window, we acquire Ryan Gravenberch. I think the vast majority, I'd be interested if we go back and watch what we were saying. I think the vast majority of us were like, top 4 finish. That's what we need.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we started off well, and we were like, holy shit. Ooh, shoot. Oops. We're like this, this midfield's really gelling for never having played together before, you know, and Endo's starting to find his where he's supposed to be, and McAllister is like incredible, and you know, so I don't know. I still think that we're in it too. I think it's probably going to be I think it's going to be really tough, right? Because not only are we're still in it, we need City to drop points and Arsenal to drop points again.
Yeah. Well,
You know, in 6 games. 5
see
of
if
which are
Spurs
away.
can do us a favor. Yeah, I saw a thing today that if we lose in the Europa League, that Klopp only has 2 more games at Anfield.
Right. Yeah, this is the truth is I think we're hitting the part of the season where we're missing people like James Milner and Jordan Henderson.
Yeah.
I mean, Van Dijk obviously, and he's been pulling his part. I think he's been doing really well, but Mo Salah has not been the same player after coming back from injury.
Yeah.
I don't know where he's at.
I don't really want to like heap a bunch of crap on Connor Bradley, but I don't think he had a particularly good game. And now he's out for like 3 weeks with an ankle
Yeah.
injury.
Yeah. Well, he was he was in the game for 47 minutes or something. He didn't. I also just don't think anybody played particularly well. I think it was just an absolute. There's no urgency. We weren't winning second balls. When we did have possession, it was lumbering, and they weren't like pacing up. There weren't like one-touch passes going. They would just like slowly work it around the back line. There's no incisive passing from the back line into breaking the lines as far as
Yeah,
like
I don't
getting
think
it up to
I don't
Curtis
remember
Jones
Van Dyke hitting like a single long diagonal that, to Sala or
Yeah.
Diaz.
No. Um, in fairness, that's because Crystal Palace sat deep pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
And then hit us on counterattacks, and they did a great job at that. They came with a strategy. They played it. They
Yeah.
did really well. We were just out of ideas, which is a shame, because it would have been nice to be in the Cop and at least celebrate a goal.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if they even would have just put the ball in the back of the net and it was called offsides, because at least we could have still celebrated for a little bit, or a VAR check. They didn't even get the ball in the back of the net at all.
Yeah.
I'd be curious how many games this season they went scoreless at Anfield. Obviously, Atalanta, United, Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
So, not a great game to go to, but the experience was still really cool.
Yeah.
I think we got a lot of cool pictures, some good footage. Like, hopefully we'll be able to cut a new little intro together for this. Yeah. Any takeaways from Anfield?
It's a beautiful facility. I mean, despite what our Evertonian cabbie was saying, I think Anfield's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool.
The tour was cool. If you do go, I would suggest making sure you reserve a guided tour.
Yeah.
I didn't particularly enjoy the self-guided tour that much, mainly because my tablet thing locked up after like 2 minutes and I couldn't use it, which I probably could have stopped and asked someone, but I was, also dealing with a semi-crabby 8-year-old, so.
Yeah. I think that was part of it too, is that it's like, yeah, it's tough. It's isolating, right? Like, doing self-guided tours is an isolating experience. And
Yeah.
It feels to me like that's not like the way to experience that sort of thing. Like, you kind of want like the local Scouts tour guide that has all their jokes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the expense of Everton and Chelsea and all that stuff. So, next time.
Yeah, next time. Yeah.
I don't know that I have very much else to put on to. I think if any Liverpool fan out there that has the opportunity to get to Anfield to see a game, I definitely think that you should do it. It's a totally different experience, like going and being there with match day, like Scousers who go day in, day out. Like, it is really, really cool experience. Just like,
Yeah, and we got to meet such an awesome, range of people, Arthur and I went out to get a snack in the concourse because we got in the stadium pretty early, and chatted with a guy in the concourse who was drinking some beers, who had been a season ticket holder in the Cop for 35 years, and just chatting with him and getting his perspective on tourists in the Cop and, the English national team, and just kind of getting the unfiltered opinion of locals, was really cool. Because you see stuff on the socials and you're like, where is this person even from? Have they ever even been to Anfield? So, you see some really wild stuff online sometimes, but to get there and kind of get that firsthand interaction with, the people that have been there, day in and day out for years. The guy we sat next to on the plane from Manchester to London, had been going to games for, I think, 40 or 50 years. He was talking about standing in the boys' pen when he was a little kid,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part of the thing that makes it an incredible experience is that, it's not only the game, it's the people, right? Like, if it were just the game, we'd be pretty bummed. But it was like, it's about the people, it's about the experience, it's about, um, it's about just, being there and see. It's like this is the same ground that so many incredible players have played at before, So
Yeah.
it's like we have the privilege of sitting and watching the game where they played.
I was getting
Um,
excited because they had started singing my favorite Liverpool song, which is "Glory on the Fields of Anfield Road," and they
mhm.
got about 4 lines in, and then Crystal Palace scored, and I don't think I heard it the rest of the game.
Right. Way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what we were doing for that goal either way because
I mean, I was watching it today on the replay, and they just cut our defense to pieces. Just guys not tracking runners, not being where they should have been, and they just
yeah,
got,
he was
you
like
know, it
wide
was-
open at
yeah,
at the penalty box,
yeah.
or like even
Nobody
closer. It's
even
like
near him.
just past the ball. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Um, yeah, not a great display. Hopefully on to the next. Hopefully we can finish the season out strong. We got 6 Premier League games left, 18 points available on the table. Hopefully we can bag all 18 points. If we do, I think we got a chance at this. I think Arsenal will fall apart, personally.
Yeah.
My personal feeling is that this is going to be a big blow for them, and they still have 2 more derbies to go
Yeah.
with Chelsea and Spurs before the end of the season.
And City host Real Madrid tomorrow.
Yeah, not that
I mean, who
have
knows
any
what?
bearing on there.
Yeah, but it's a European game against a big team. Who knows what could happen and how that affects their season?
Yeah, true.
We have Atalanta on Thursday. I am gonna hold the hope and the faith that they're gonna win. They're gonna pull it off.
Yeah.
Darwin Nunez
Yeah.
hat trick.
Okay. I dig that. I think it could happen. I think it would be really interesting if it did because we need something. We need like some like minor. We need like a miracle to pull us out of whatever this funk is that's happening. This like
Yeah.
sort of like this latest post international break. People returning from injuries, not necessarily up to speed, and it's just like we've got to get something to
So,
galvanize the team.
so let me ask you this:
Okay.
What's Mo Salah's future? What do you do with Mo Salah?
I think he leaves this summer.
Yeah. Who do
I
you
think
bring
he
in to
leaves this
replace
summer.
him? I know
Well,
I
a
have my
real- a-
my vote.
A realistic choice, though.
Yeah.
How old is Jared Bowen?
I don't know, but he's British, so it'll
It'll
cost
be a
a
little
pretty
bit
penny.
expensive. Yeah, but that still helps us out with homegrown.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like we can't just ignore that. That's a reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still just the one that I think of the most when it comes to
Yeah.
replacing. But the question is this: is like we're having a new manager, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So the question becomes, do you even replace Mo Salah,
Right.
right? Like, or is it the idea? It's like, okay, well, now we're gonna return to the idea of dominant-footed wingers being on their dominant side instead of cutting in from those things like Mane and like Salah. Like, oh well, okay, well, what if we get a left foot? What if, what if
They put Diaz on the right.
Yeah, Diaz is on the right and like, I don't know, Gakpo on the left or whatever. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Are we gonna be in trouble next year? I think it's gonna be a big, growth year for us.
Well, and so that was interesting because we were talking to one or two cabbies about it, and one of them said, in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense on why Xabi Alonso probably didn't want to come this year, is that whoever replaces Klopp is going to have a tough time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like on who was going to be the manager after Steve Carell left the office. That person wasn't going to be set up for success.
Right. Ed Helms, I think, is who took over, right?
Well, yeah, but they had like a 4-episode thing with Will Ferrell, just a really unlikable guy. So there was like a transition.
Oh, smart. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be interesting, but it is what it is. We'll stick with them.
Were Lisbon in the Champions League this year? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't, but we
Okay.
should start watching some of their games, or at least seeing highlights. Or I'm sure there
Well,
are some
I saw
YouTubers that have been
a quote
creating.
from, I think it was from James Pierce today, saying that like basically according to his sources within the club that Amorim is a top candidate, but the rumors about a verbal contract are not
Or,
true,
oh no.
and that they're still looking at other candidates too.
Interesting. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. It doesn't matter. Whoever it is, they'll be fine. I believe in Michael Edwards. That's who I believe in.
Yeah. It's good he's back.
Yeah, it is. Okay, guys, I think that's probably about all that we have, like, for our return from the pilgrimage that was to Anfield. Bummed that we didn't get the 3 points, but onward and upward. We got 6 games left until the end of the season. Miracles do come true. We could still walk away with the Prem title. I believe it. I think it's possible.
Yeah, I think we'll do it.
Okay, great. All right, guys, that's been everything from us here at American LFC. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a comment below. Let us know what do you think they should do with Mo Salah. And let us know if you think that we're going to beat Atalanta or if we're going to win the Premier League this year. And yeah, I think that's all we got. So cheers.
All right, cheers.